Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashoda Nandana, Jaya Vrndesa Ranjana. Jaya Yashoda Nandana, Jaya Vrndesa Ranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jyam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Prabhupada Ashtottara Shadasri Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jyam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Prabhupada Ashtottara Shadasri Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Kodi Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. नामाचार्य शीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glory to assembled devotees, all glory to assembled devotees, all glory to Shri Guru Gauranga, all glory to Srila Prabhupada की जय। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, entitled Ambarish Maharaj offended by Durvasa Muni. Verse number 29. Ariradhaishu Krishnam Mahishya Tulyashilaya Yukta Samvatsaram Viro Dadhara Dvadashi Vratam Ariradhaishu Krishnam Mahishya Tulyashilaya Yukta Samvatsaram Viro Dadhara Dvadashi Vratam Ariradhaishu Krishnam Mahishya Tulyashilaya Yukta Samvatsaram Viro Dadhara Dvadashi Vratam Ariradhaishu Krishnam Mahishya Tulyashilaya Yukta Samvatsaram Viro Dadhara Dvadashi Vratam Mataji. Word to word translation responsibly, please. Ariradha Yishuhu, aspiring to worship Krishnam, the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Mahishya, with his queen, Tulyashilaya, who was equally as qualified as Maharaj Ambarish, Yuktaha, together, Samvatsaram, for 1 year, Viraha, the king, Dadhara, accepted, Dvadashi Vratam, the vow for observing Ekadashi and Dvadashi. Translation: to worship Lord Krishna, Maharaj Ambarish, along with his queen, who was equally qualified, observed the vow of Ekadashi and Dvadashi for 1 year. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. To observe Ekadashi Vrata and Dvadashi Vrata means to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those interested in advancing in Krishna consciousness must observe Ekadashi Vrata regularly. Maharaj Ambarish's queen was equally qualified as the king. Therefore, it was possible for Maharaj Ambarish to engage his life in household affairs. In this regard, the word Tulyashilaya is very significant. Unless a wife is equally as qualified as her husband, household affairs are very difficult to continue. Chanakya Pandit advises that a person in such a situation should immediately give up household life and become a vanaprastha or sannyasi. Mata yasya grihe nasti bharya ja priyavadini aranyam tena gandavyam yadharanyam tatha griham. A person who has no mother at home and whose wife is not agreeable with him should immediately go away to the forest, because human life is meant for spiritual advancement only. One's wife must be helpful in this endeavor, otherwise there is no need of household life. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanyitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vikshakhanyitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpadarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhutair Mahatbhirya Ima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shede Yadamusha Purusha Bhungte Gunan Shodashatmaka Solang Krishishta Bhagavan Vacham Sime. Hare Krishna. Here, the great devotion of Maharaj Ambarish is described. We might consider very ordinary to perform ekadashi vrata, or we may take it casually, or we may miss out on some food preparation, some prasadam, or one may think this is the day to feast. In any case, we may not be so serious about fasting for ekadashi. However, in the pages of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Maharaj Ambarish's ekadashi vrata is described in following verses. If we have time, we will read. But it is giving more elaboration on the ekadashi vrata and his devotion, which is not ordinary. Now, there is a short purport here, but in the next verse there is no purport. However, Vishwanath Thakur makes a point that whole life Maharaj Ambarish performed ekadashi vrata. So what is so significant for this ekadashi vrata which he is performing, which is Samvatsaram, for 1 year he has performed ekadashi vrata. What is the speciality of this ekadashi vrata? The speciality of this ekadashi vrata is that he performed this ekadashi vrata in Vrindavan. So he wanted to perform ekadashi vrata in the holy dham, and that's why it is mentioned in the next verse, Madhuvane Archayat. Madhuvane. Where is Madhuvan? In Vrindavan. So Madhuvan he performed ekadashi vrata to make it even more auspicious and even more devotionally potent. So this is the speciality of ekadashi vrata performed by Ambarish Maharaj. He performed in Madhuvana in Vrindavan. So it's not that 1 year he decided to perform ekadashi vrata. No, that's not the point. Whole life he was performing ekadashi vrata, but 1 year he wanted to do it in the holy dham. So this is the speciality of this ekadashi vrata. And we need to take ekadashi vrata very seriously, as we can read in this purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, those interested in advancing in Krishna consciousness must observe ekadashi vrata regularly. Bhaktivedanta Thakur sings, Madhava Tithi Bhakti Janani. Madhava Tithi. What is Madhava Tithi? Krishna's Tithi. Madhava Tithi. What are the examples of Madhava Tithi? Can you tell me, Chaitanya? One Madhava Tithi. Krishna's special days. One special day for Krishna. Okay, very good. These are the two examples given in the verses as well. Ekadashi and Janmashtami. First is Ekadashi mentioned. Very special. Why? Madhava Tithi, Bhakti Janani. What is the meaning of Janani? Anyone knows? Janani. Mother. So Ekadashi, Dwadashi, these, and Janmashtami, these, and many other days, they are Bhakti Janani. They can generate. They are mother of devotion. So they give birth to devotion, and that's why it is emphasized that everyone must follow ekadashi vrata. What is ekadashi vrata? We may take ekadashi vrata very casually sometimes, or we do it in a not a very careful or cautious way. But in the Bhaktivinoda Thakur song it is mentioned, carefully observe ekadashi vrata and other important days. What is so important about Ekadashi, the 11th day in the lunar calendar? Do you know the story of Ekadashi? How Ekadashi started? Who is Ekadashi? Who is Ekadashi Devi? Have you heard? The Lord, the time of creation, created not only all the pious activities, all the ritualistic activities, as we can read about the Karmakanda section in the beginning of 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Sahayajna parasrishta, Sahayajna, along with the yajna, everything is created, Prajasrishta. Along with the Praja, Sahayajna. Along with all the Vedic sacrifices, so that everyone can perform ritualistic activities, not for the devotees, but for Karmagandis. It was all created by the Lord. However, Lord also created sinful activities. Those who want to do sinful activities, they can do sinful activities. So it is mentioned that he created sin personified, called Papa Purusha. Papa Purusha. The whole Papa Purusha is made of all different kinds of sins. What is the highest sin that is on the head of Papa Purusha? What do you consider the topmost sin so that we don't perform? Killing a Brahmana. Killing a Brahmana is considered the highest. And Papa Purusha's head is created by killing a Brahmana. Similarly, each and every limb, each and every senses of this Papa Purusha was created by different sins, including all four regulatory principles, intoxication, illicit association, gambling, you name it. All different kind of things, they are all very detailed. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, the skin, the body, the hand, like in that way, the whole Papa Purusha is made of all different kinds of sin that we can imagine or we cannot imagine. Everything is included in the Papa Purusha. Then the Lord has to regulate the material world. Who is the regulator of this material world in that sense? Who can give punishment? Yamaraj. So he created Yamaraj also. So Yamaraj, why? Yamaraj and Yamaraja's Loka. And all the hellish planets. So, okay, you can do pious activities, you can go upward in this material creation. You do sinful activities, you go downward. And when the sin accumulates, there has to be correction center. That is hellish planet. There are hellish planets. There are corrections which are taking place. If you do sinful activities and if it accumulates beyond a certain threshold, then they will be corrected. How will they be corrected? Not in the gross body. If we are thrown in boiling oil, what will happen? We'll die, right? Will you feel pain? Yes, for few seconds maybe. After that, no pain. We cannot experience it. Died, finished. But in the hellish planet, they give a special subtle body, so that one can go through the pain, but one will not die. One will not be devoid of consciousness. So this is the subtle hellish punishment. Who created? Ultimately, by the Lord himself. So one day, the Lord decided, I will go to Yamaraj. Let me see how the creation is going on. Are there any residents to hellish planets? Is the law and order department, enforcement, everything going okay or not? So the Lord Vishnu went to Yamaraj's palace. Yamaraj was very pleased to see the Supreme Lord because he's a Mahajan, he's a great devotee, and received him, honored him, gave him a seat. As the Lord was sitting, the Lord could hear crying noise, crying and wailing. So he asked, Yamaraj, what's happening? Who is crying like this? Very piteously. So Yamaraj said, so many living entities from earthly planets are going to the hellish planets and they are suffering. They are going through their hellish punishments and because of that they are crying. So hearing this, Lord became very compassionate. He felt, oh, this is not really good. Had to do something about it. And then he decided he will visit the hellish planet, and the Lord went to the hellish planets. And when he went to the hellish planet, the sound of the crying increased. Everyone was crying even louder, seeing the Lord for help. So the Lord, being very merciful, he thought, how can I help these sinful people? So the Lord decided to create ekadashi. How did he create ekadashi? This 11th day of the lunar month was an expansion of the Lord himself. The Lord himself expanded into Ekadashi day and asked everyone, just follow Ekadashi. That's it. Then you will be relieved from all sinful reactions. So the hellish residents were very happy. And they followed Ekadashi, and it was mentioned they went back home, back to Godhead. So the whole universe came to know about Krishna's mercy in the form of his own expansion as Ekadashi Devi. So everyone started following Ekadashi, and slowly all the people started going to the Lord's abode. Now, one person is out of job, nothing to do. Who is that? Yamaraj. But Yamaraj doesn't mind, he's a pure devotee. But someone else was in trouble. Who is that? Papa Purush. You know that, right? Papa Purush. So Papa Purush, what he did? What did he do? He approached the Lord and requested, oh my Lord, I am really afraid of this Ekadashi. Because everyone is performing Ekadashi and they are going back home, back to Godhead. And where will I reside? Even I cannot reside anyway. I can reside if people do perform sinful activities. Otherwise, I have no place to reside. So he approached the Lord and he fell at his feet. Give me shelter. Give me some place where I can reside. I am Papa Purush. I am sin personified, but ultimately, that is also coming from you. So you need to give some space for me to live. The Lord started laughing. Because, see this. Even sin personified, Papa Purush is also surrendering to me. And he's falling at my lotus feet asking for shelter. This reminds us about Kali, personified, approaching Maharaj Parikshit. Give me some place to reside. Then did Maharaj give some place? Yeah, he gave some place, right? Where the wealth not used, gold not used in Krishna service, you can reside. If the regulations are not performed, then you can reside. Like that, he gave some places for Kali to reside. And here the Lord himself said, don't worry. On Ekadashi day, you are not supposed to take any grains. So he said, you can reside inside grains, because whoever is serious in spiritual life will not take grains on Ekadashi. And so, reside there. So if anyone takes grain on Ekadashi, then they will be affected by sin. So we can understand this is a negative thing that is affected by sin. But on a positive side, Ekadashi is an expansion of the Lord himself. So Ekadashi day itself is spiritually potent. So it's a very special day. And it is very potent. So when we perform devotional activities, we get a lot more benefit. So this is a very important day. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that Ekadashi day, one can assess one's spiritual progress. So once in 2 weeks, it's a day for reflection. How am I doing in my devotional life? Last 2 weeks, how did I chant my rounds? How did I do my service? What was my consciousness while performing service? Throughout the 2 weeks, for the fortnightly, what was my consciousness in general? And where can I correct? Where can I improve? So it's a day of reflection. So that's why it is considered very significant, very important. But what is the real purpose of Ekadashi? The real purpose of Ekadashi is not just fasting. There are different kinds of fasting for Ekadashi. On a higher level of ekadashi, when does ekadashi start? Do you know? If today is ekadashi, today is not ekadashi, I am saying if today is ekadashi, when does the ekadashi fasting start? Not Brahma Muhurta. This I am telling the highest standard, okay? In the highest standard of ekadashi, it starts the day before. One start fasting. There is no dinner the night before ekadashi. That is Dashami, right? Dashami, no dinner for Dashami. Only one time eating. This is the day before ekadashi. And then one starts Nirjal from there. And on the ekadashi day, no fasting, no food, grain, Nirjal. And then ekadashi night, what is on ekadashi night? Jagaran. No sleeping. This is the ekadashi standard. No sleeping till morning. Dwadashi morning, no sleeping. We had difficulty, open our eyes during the class. What to speak about the whole night of ekadashi? So difficult, isn't it? It is said, and the next day morning also, that the paran time, one can do the paran by maybe half milk and half water mixed. And then lunch, one can have actual feast. So this is a serious process, ekadashi fasting. If one comes to that standard, what will happen if we start jagaran? Then first ekadashi day will be sleeping, and night we can wake and we can do jagaran. No, that will not work. Ekadashi day, no, one is not supposed to sleep in that higher standard. Rather, one should continue Hari Bhajan, service, seva, all throughout, and night also all throughout, and the next day also one continues. So this is a serious fasting. That's why Vishwanath Chakravarti says that 3 nights, practically speaking, no eating. The day before and day after only once a day, lunch, and 3 nights no eating, and ekadashi day nothing. And jagaran. This is the strictest ekadashi fasting. It is mentioned even some devotees used to do during the time of Lord Chaitanya. And it is natural that one may fall asleep, right? The tendency is there, but if there is that tendency, later followers, they used to tie their shikha to the roof. So if you fall, one cannot fall on the ground because if one is held by the shikha. So these are high levels of following ekadashi. But what did Prabhupada teach us? Ekadashi, feasting. So devotees initially said, okay, initial disciples, Prabhupada said, okay, ekadashi fasting. They said, okay, we are not going to eat anything. Prabhupada said, no, we will have feast. Ekadashi feasting. Why? Because Prabhupada understood the essence of ekadashi. What is the essence of ekadashi? Not feasting. But the essence of ekadashi is getting closer to Krishna. So whatever is necessary to do more service and getting closer to Krishna has to be done. And that's why Prabhupada didn't say the initial devotees, you just fast for ekadashi, nirjal. Rather encourage them, have nice prasadam and do service. But only ekadashi prasadam. But as we progress, one has to control one's mind and senses. Especially eating, one has to control. Initial days is a different story. But as time goes by, we need to have regulated meals every day. But especially on ekadashi. It's not an opportunity to feast because we may have so many different kinds of prasadam. So today is the day of variety. Variety is the mother of enjoyment. So we have all different ekadashi preparations. So let's enjoy. So that's not the mood of ekadashi. And at the same time, even the opposite. That is, we are doing nirjal and we want to show off to everyone. Look, I am doing nirjal. So I am a very austere devotee. That is also not the mood. So these are two extremes. One is enjoying, one is showing false renunciation. No eating, no drinking, jagaran, and next day crashing. because we cannot continue for a long time, so one has to crash at one point. So that is also not the purpose. One of Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, disciple of Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, very advanced senior devotee from Gaudiya Math, Bhakti-Rakshak Maharaj, one sannyasi, much younger, sannyasi visited this Maharaj in Gaudiya Math. So this sannyasi led kirtan, fired up kirtan, and then Maharaj told the sannyasi, today is Ekadashi, so please honor some Ekadashi prasadam, because you are visiting us, so please honor some Ekadashi prasadam. So this sannyasi said, Maharaj, I have been doing nirjal fasting for Ekadashi for so many years. For so many years I haven't eaten or drank anything on Ekadashi day. So Maharaj, do I have to, that's my situation, that's my vow, so what can I do? Maharaj said, will you not accept, very politely Maharaj asked this sannyasi, Maharaj, will you not accept any Ekadashi prasadam from us? Because you are visiting. It is for a host, it is not very nice. If someone comes to home or anywhere and not giving anything, it is not so nice. So, will you not accept anything? Then the sannyasi told, if you please, I will break my vow, I will have Ekadashi prasadam. Then he accepted some little Ekadashi prasadam. So, this Maharaj told that he actually understood the meaning of Ekadashi. He said this sannyasi understood the meaning of Ekadashi. Because Ekadashi is not just about fasting or just being austere, but getting closer to Krishna. So that is the purpose of Ekadashi. Sanskrit, there is this term upavas. Have you heard the term upavas? Upavas means fasting. Vas means reside. Upa means closer. Reside closer to whom? To the Supreme Lord. This is the purpose of upavas. Not for showing false renunciation or achieving something material. That's not the purpose. Getting closer to Krishna, that is the purpose. So this Maharaj appreciated that he broke his vow, not Ekadashi vow, but his personal vow of no eating and drinking on Ekadashi. Rather, he accepted some Ekadashi prasadam. So we had to be serious about Ekadashi. We know some devotees chant 25 rounds on Ekadashi days. Some devotees fast half day for Ekadashi. So in this way, or some devotees do something extra in devotion service. So this has to be the mood of Ekadashi. We want to get closer to Krishna so that we can think, okay, this is a fortnightly. When is the next Ekadashi? And when was the previous Ekadashi? So in this way, we get a kind of a internal calendar about Ekadashi, an idea of Ekadashi. Usually, if you observe Ekadashi, you know that if Ekadashi is Saturday, generally 2 weeks will be on Saturday. Have you noticed? And then it will move to Sunday. So you can observe how the Ekadashi is shifting. It's of course going cyclically. So we can see that Ekadashi, and that can be the day for introspection and taking something serious about devotion life. That day we can do something more to please Krishna. So we can pray in that we can take Ekadashi seriously. So this is the meaning of Ekadashi. Now, here we can see that Maharaj Ambarish followed Ekadashi throughout his life. But 1 year, he did very special Ekadashi in Vrindavan. So that is the significance of this Ekadashi. Now, if we break Ekadashi, what we do? Accidentally, if we eat some grains. One day, I took some prasadam and Ekadashi day breakfast, and first I ate some salad, and someone came and told me, salad is not Ekadashi. So in the breakfast itself, I broke my Ekadashi fasting. Then what to do? It's an opportunity now. Let's look for some sweet rice. Anyway, I have broken my Ekadashi. Let me have a feast today. No, it doesn't work like that. Srila Prabhupada explains, if you break Ekadashi, that point, when you break the Ekadashi, that point, again start fasting for Ekadashi. Continue fasting for Ekadashi whole day. Then, next day, you must follow Ekadashi. So if you break ekadashi, you continue fasting for ekadashi that day, and next day you had to follow ekadashi. So you can be practical. What you can do? You can arrange some prasadam, nice ekadashi prasadam for next day, and follow ekadashi next day. Okay, so it becomes more than one ekadashi day, right? So that's how there is no choice. If you break ekadashi, we cannot think end of the year we have Bhima ekadashi. That's not what prescribed by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada's prescription is, if you break ekadashi, next day follow ekadashi. So in that way we can be serious about ekadashi, getting closer to Krishna. And one can perform austerities according to our capacity. Don't do austerities which we cannot perform. If you are doing ekadashi, nirjal, and thinking about prasadam all the time, better to have some ekadashi prasadam. One time, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, he became quite upset about his disciples. Why? He asked, where are the devotees? He said, many brahmacharis, they are all sleeping. It was ekadashi day. Maharaj asked, why are they sleeping? They are all doing nirjal and they are tired, so they are sleeping. Maharaj said, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj said, cook khichdi now. Cook khichdi now. Feed them khichdi and ask them to go and preach. Can you? So he was making the point. It was not that we had to cook khichdi and break ekadashi. That's not the point. Have some prasadam but do service. Think about Krishna. So that is the point. So this is the ekadashi vrata performed by Ambarish Maharaj. And there is a paran time for ekadashi, that is on Dwadashi, and that is the time best to break ekadashi. So one can have some mahaprasadam, one can have some grains, and in that way one can break ekadashi. So we will hear more about the ekadashi vrata of Ambarish Maharaj in the following verses. And the next point mentioned in this purport is about the queen of Ambarish Maharaj. Mahishya Tulya Shilaya. Mahishi means queen. Tulya Shilaya. She was equally qualified. Maharaj Ambarish's wife was equally qualified. She was also performing ekadashi vrata strictly as Ambarish Maharaj. She was not thinking, okay, my husband is following, I will get the benefit. No, she was also performing ekadashi vrata very strictly. And Prabhupada makes the point that for the household affair to be smooth, both husband and wife have to be equally qualified. Both have to be qualified, not one. Otherwise, there will be difficulty to continue. And he quotes this famous verse by Chanakya Pandit. Mata yasya grihe nasi bharya chapi apriyavadini. Aranyam tena gandavyam yatha aranyam tatha griham. So it's a classic verse where if a person who has no mother at home and whose wife is not agreeable with him should immediately go away to the forest, because human life is meant for spiritual advancement only. One's wife must be helpful in this endeavor, otherwise there is no need of household life. Very strong statement. That's why it is mentioned, Hitvatma padam griham andhagupam vanam gatoyat harimashrayatha. Same point. Hitva atma padam. If household is not Krishna conscious, then that household is known as Atma Patam. Atma Patam means that place which will cause fall down for Atma. Atma Patam. Atma will fall down. Griham Andhakopam. Griham is compared to Andhakopam, deep, dark well. So it is mentioned, if one doesn't follow Krishna consciousness at home, then that is Andhagopam. It is deep, dark well. Otherwise, it is ashrama, grihastha ashrama. So then the same instruction is given. Vanam gatoyat harim ashrayatha. Vanam gatoyat. Which is that forest mentioned by Prabhupada in the 7th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Prahlad Maharaj's statement? Vrindavan. That Vanam is Vrindavanam. One has to go to Vrindavan. And Harimashrayatha. One should take shelter of Hari. So this is the point. And another interesting point here, this Tulya Shilaya, equally qualified or in equal nature, the husband and wife has to be of similar nature according to Varnashram. It's mentioned in the 11th canto, in the 18th chapter of the descriptions of different ashrams. Very elaborate descriptions are given about Brahmacharya ashram, Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, Sannyasa ashram. The Grihastha ashram is generated from the loin of the Supreme Lord. And Brahmacharya ashram is the heart of the Lord. And Vanaprastha is the chest. So it is mentioned, Vishwanath Thakur explains that chest is higher than on top of the heart, it's mentioned. So first is on bottom level, Grihastha, then Brahmacharya, then Vanaprastha, and head, Sannyasa. So in this, it is explained that for a Grihastha, when a man is accepting a wife, they have to be of similar nature. It's a very important point. There has to be proper match. Then only they can continue in proper Grihastha duties. And that nature, when we have devotees, there had to be devotees and there has to be similar nature, then they can continue their devotional life. So if not, that is not really a Grihastha ashram. It is Griham Andhakupam. That's why it is emphasized. And Srila Prabhupada was actually very proud of his Grihastha disciples who preach Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada sent 3 Grihastha couples to where? From America to London, right? To London. 3 Grihastha couples. And Prabhupada gave special mercy. You can read in the extra pastimes of Prabhupada. Prabhupada actually taught them personally how to lead the kirtan, how to do everything. And finally it is mentioned that the devotees kissed the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Can you imagine? It is completely non-Vedic in one sense. It's probably maybe Western. Kissing. Kissing the lotus feet we don't really see in the injunctions. Vedic injunctions we don't see. We do the abhishek of the lotus feet or touch. But kissing or put the head we can see. It's mentioned even in the deity worship procedure in the 11th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. One can touch the head on the lotus feet of the Lord or the spiritual master. But you don't really find kissing the feet of the Lord. That is a bit Western thing. But devotees did, and Srila Prabhupada accepted. So Prabhupada reciprocated to the sentiments of these devotees because they were ready to accept austerity in preaching Krishna consciousness. They went with a young child, with a baby practically. And then they couldn't find a home, as we know. Some places where nobody was there. They got shelter there, and eventually they established Krishna consciousness in London. So Prabhupada was so proud that his sannyasi godbrothers, or one of the sannyasi godbrothers, went to London at the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj provided Lakshmi, provided all the facilities, gave some contacts. He sent his disciple to London to establish Krishna consciousness. But what was the conclusion? I think one old lady or someone took up Krishna consciousness. Something happened. Apart from that, nothing happened. He met one English gentleman. He was very interested. He was enamored by being a Brahmana and Brahmanical culture. So this sannyasi told this English gentleman, I will make you a Brahmana. But you had to do one thing. What is that? You had to follow 4 regulatory principles. And what was the response? Impossible. So this is the response Gaudiya Math got from the sannyasi, and that was the perception of preaching in the Western world. What is the perception? Impossible. Can you see? And Prabhupada was so pleased that these devotees who were grihasthas, but they were able to establish Krishna consciousness in London. And to the degree that they invited Srila Prabhupada to London after sending a newspaper clip to America, where the Hare Krishna movement was established in London, a proper big news. And he sent that to America, and Prabhupada read that. Prabhupada was very pleased. Then they made all the arrangement. Then only they invited Srila Prabhupada to London. So Prabhupada's preaching tour was very successful. So this is serious service to the spiritual master. So if anyone is dedicated for the mission of Lord Chaitanya, then that is glorious. Doesn't matter which ashram. And grihastha, if they preach, and we can see so many grihasthas in our community preaching. We have so many bhakti vrikshas flourishing in our community, and otherwise also so many grihasthas engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness. That is glorious. Because that is the mission of Lord Chaitanya, that is the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada gave the example of Indian Railway. The Indian Railway, he compared Indian Railway to preaching. He said, Indian Railway, he said, what is the ultimate purpose of the Indian Railway? Because Indian Railway is a good example, because huge, massive, one of the biggest railway system in the whole world. So now, why did he compare the railway, Indian railways, to preaching? What is the most important aspect of Indian Railway, if you consider? On a practical level, what is the most important thing about the railway? It shouldn't stop. Then, exactly, the wheels should keep running. Wheels should rotate. That is the purpose of railway, right? Meaning, the train should move. Train should go from one place to other. That's the whole purpose of railway. But Prabhupada gave, the railway has so many administrative staffs. There is even a railway minister, cabinet minister, right? There is a cabinet minister, railway minister is there. There is a huge cabinet is there. So many thousands and thousands and thousands of employees are there. If you see, a huge administrative body for railway. But what is the purpose? The wheels should rotate. And the train should go from one place to other. Otherwise, everything else is simply a waste in one sense. So Prabhupada used this example to make the point of the mission of Lord Chaitanya and the mission of ISKCON, which is preaching. Prabhupada said that rotation of the wheel is preaching. So the movement means the movement should move. That's what he said. Movement should move. Means preaching have to take place. Always there has to be preaching. What is the purpose of worshipping the deity? Yes, to give pleasure to the Lord. It's instructed by Prabhupada, but that is also preaching. The purpose is the deity worship standard has to be so high that whoever comes, they feel like keep coming. Then they can become devotees. Everything. Prasadam, that is the purpose. It is also preaching. Or it has to end up in preaching. Or we shouldn't think that, okay, I will cook nicely and offer to the Lord, that's about it. No. It should attract people and they should become devotees. So back in the days, Srila Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada emphasized so much the quality of prasadam. Prabhupada emphasized so much quality of prasadam. How many? 10 preparations for Sunday feast or 15? A big number. He wanted 10 or 15 preparations for Sunday feast. And Prabhupada wasn't happy if the quality of prasadam drops. He wanted high quality prasadam. Very important. And in our temple we are trying to give good quality prasadam sumptuously all 3 times for everyone. Right? So it's very important. The Lord will be pleased. Prabhupada will be pleased by this. But what is the ultimate purpose? People should come. People should become devotees. So in that we can all contribute. Different devotees may be engaged in different roles, but we had to see that the whole system is functioning properly. I remember one time we asked Prahladananda Maharaj about Western outreach. Not many Western people are not becoming devotees, so hardly anyone, some number of years back. And we were trying, not much is happening. Maharaj made a very interesting point. He said that if you eat, you will get nourished, right? If you water a plant, if you give what is necessary, then it will grow. Similarly, naturally, we have to grow. And if growth is part of the nourishment. So if nourishment is not happening, if people are not becoming devotees, means there is some problem in nourishment. That is the point. So it's a natural product of devotional service. So he mentioned that if you do the right things, then people will become devotees. Whether from Indian background or non-Indian background, everyone will take up Krishna consciousness. The number, that's a different story, but people will take up Krishna consciousness. So that is a very interesting point, that if you do the right thing in devotional service for preaching, then people will take up Krishna consciousness from all different backgrounds. Number can be different, but it will happen, and we can see that. So, in conclusion, we can hear that how Ambarish Maharaj performed ekadashi vrata very strictly, and the benefit of ekadashi vrata and the consciousness in which we had to perform ekadashi vrata. And also, as it is mentioned, the purpose of household ashram is to worship the Lord. And in that way, one can make progress in devotion life. And we spoke a little bit about preaching, that the whole purpose of ISKCON is preaching, and everyone can take part in this mission. So I stop here and see if there are any questions or comments. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
So if we don't break our fast at the Dwadashi time, then do we fast again?
No. In the technical statement is, to get the full benefit of ekadashi fasting, one has to do paran at the right time. So that is the point. And if it doesn't do paran on the right time, then do later. And the Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada didn't emphasize so much on the paran time, even though technically that is the... So if you see all the devotees, they don't speak much about the paran time initially. I don't think Prabhupada spoke much about the paran time. I'm not sure 100%. So Prabhupada, I remember when there are technical issues, Prabhupada said, it may not be practical all the time. So Prabhupada was practical about it. So now we know about the paran time, so we should follow. And if it doesn't happen, then do it later. Yeah.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So also that, say if we break our ekadashi and then we fast again the next day, so that means, because then we don't really, like, we can't again really follow the break time, right? So
Yeah.
then that's okay?
Then Trayadashi one has to break the fast, that's all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
In the cases where because for new people, we don't encourage them, or we don't stipulate them to follow ekadashi. And so for a lot of preaching programs, when it falls on ekadashi, we just serve grain prasadam. Is that encouraging sin? Like, what is the understanding behind that?
If it is a small program, we can provide ekadashi. In certain situations, we may not be able to give ekadashi prasadam. It may not be practical. At least it is prasadam. So we are at least giving them prasadam. That much is there. But ideally, we had to give ekadashi prasadam. But certain preaching programs, we will not be able to. In large quantities and a certain kind of menu we want to give, we may not be able to do it. But when a small quantity especially, we can give ekadashi prasadam. It's not a problem. Ideally, we should give ekadashi prasadam.
So since it's prasadam, does that negate the sin?
For them, they are not following anything, so they're going to get benefited to some degree. Anyway, they are not going to follow, they are going to get... So they ate at least prasadam. So the prasadam benefit they are going to get for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Prabhu, you had mentioned about the pastime with Pralananda Maharaj and how he said that, we have to do the right things when we are trying to give Krishna consciousness to someone, no matter what their background is. So, so can you elaborate a little bit on the right things?
There is no elaboration possible. We need to learn what to do.
Is it the way we are
Everything.
presenting?
Exactly, everything. We need to learn the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल।